Hello, one and all. First off, I apologize. I have to have my windows down. It's not all that bad outside. It's just kind of warm when it's in your car. So ignore any background noise. These headphones seem to filter them out pretty well. Today we're talking about how expectations can ruin your life. Well, unhealthy ones at least. As I normally say, man, that's good sugar water. That's not what I meant to say, but you get what I mean. As I always say, I speak from experience. So what I'm speaking on today, I'm not an expert, I'm just learning. It's a lesson I'm currently learning. About expectations. This is one of those things you could honestly talk for hours. And I'm just going to do a kind of a quick message. So what is expectation? What is a expectation? Believe it or not, this is actually Google's AI summarized it, but I like it. Personal beliefs or mental projections regarding future outcomes based on past experiences, desires, or social norms. One of the fun lessons I've been learning from God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it. I choose to call it the verse, only because of Firefly. So anytime I say verse, it's the universe. I don't like using God because I'm just not religious. Beep to you too, sir. Beep to you too. So if I say the verse, it means the universe. God, whatever. So lately, expectations have actually been kind of ruining my life. I'm constantly finding out that my expectations are not being met. Now, it does have to do with past trauma, and I'm finding out that, ironically, expectations is one of the roots that branch off into many different traumas. For instance, abandonment trauma, or attachment trauma. I found out I have attachment to expectations, and that can actually be quite dangerous. So the few expectations are healthy ones, unhealthy ones. I forgot what the other one was, but there's like 3. But let's say what healthy expectations are. They're clear, they're realistic, and they're communicated. Unhealthy ones, controlling or unspoken. An example is mind reading. And then the other expectations I want to talk about are expectations placed on you from others. So I found out this is like, I don't know, it's a lot more information than I was ready to unpack. But I'm finding out like I'm processing abandonment and I have to be okay with it, kind of things. We'll start with examples in my life. Expectations. I talk about this from time to time, and I don't mean to sound, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's like, I don't bring it up for sympathy. But it's a good example. I've talked about it before. My family, my parents specifically, were told I wasn't supposed to make it past 7 to 10 years old. They expected me to die. And what that did to them was they detached from me. They were physically present. I mean, I've always had my family up to a certain point. Not like they walked out on me like a lot of families I see. But they emotionally abandoned me. So they expected me to not live long enough. And me, being a child, expected them to love me unconditionally. That's what kids just naturally expect. They're your parents. But due to their expectations, they never emotionally attached to me. Because, they were just ready for me to kick the bucket. And, kind of ruined everything. Because after I got to a certain age, they're like, oh my god, he's gonna live. By that time, I had already lost my expectations. I expected them to love me and treat me like a normal person. A child of theirs, and I never felt like they did. And then, getting to an adult, They wanted to be a part of my life. They're like, oh, well, he's gonna live, so let's, make an effort. This is me kind of rashly summarizing, and it's how I feel. But that is based off a pattern. Because all of a sudden, after 18, both my parents are like, oh, how are you, blah, 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 and trying to be in my life. So at that point, I also expected an apology of any kind for all of it. All of my childhood. But I never got it. I mean, I could sit here and tell you expectation after expectation, but I'm finding out it's a pattern. And I've been trying to determine what this pattern is. Because the more and more I live, the more and more I find out my expectations just don't keep getting met. Or being unmet. One of the biggest things that bugs me is when you're told something. So as we were saying, the unhealthy expectations. For instance, narcissists love this. They'll build you up, and then they knock you down. It's just how it is. Sometimes people do it intentionally to hurt you. Sometimes people just don't follow through because they're people. But like, for instance, the controlling, the unspoken, or the mind reading. I've had a stepmom who was extremely controlling, and her expectations were just fucking ridiculous. Like, she would make me go back and re-clean something 3 times because she had that actually didn't really have to do with expectations, but she disguised it as unruly expectations or unhealthy. Like, she expected the house to be perfect. Well, we had 3 to 4 dogs. A family of 4, 5 sometimes. So the house was not ever messy, but it didn't stay clean, You just get dog hair anywhere. And she would use control methods like, oh, there's dog hair on the cushion. Well, I just cleaned that. And the dog just hopped up on it. Well, it's not clean. So there's good and there's bad expectations. What we don't realize, and I barely believe anyone has healthy expectations, because we're all so trauma-ridden that we don't know what to expect. And like I said, especially when we're told something. Like, let me tell you a story. I'm gonna butcher the story, because it's been a while since I've heard it, but I understand the core. And there was this fancy gentleman, always on his way to work. He basically would park somewhere, and on his way to the office, he had to pass by a homeless man. Well, it started getting cold. So one day he felt bad and was going to... He even walked up to the guy and said, hey, I'm going to buy you a blanket or something. I'll be back after work. He forgot. He didn't get it. So he came back the next day like, oh my god, I forgot. And he found the man dead with a note saying, I was doing okay every day, just surviving. But then you gave me hope, you gave me expectations, and it actually killed him. Quite literally. Hope killed him. My point to that story is I'm finding out very quickly expectations are good, they're healthy, but don't let them be the foundation, and that's something I'm dealing with. I had a big moment where I had someone who was gonna follow through, and I imagined they were gonna come save me from essentially being homeless. And they ghosted me, kind of thing. Well, I had expectations, and I did not prepare properly because of it. I was expecting someone or something to help, and it fell through, and I was completely SOL. But, and to a point, I was like, my expectations never get met, so let's never have any. Well, that's not exactly a great way to live either. Because no matter what, people expect things. They do. Like, a healthy expectation now, I believe I have, is if I find a partner, I expect them to pull 50% of the weight. In anything. It's just how it works. Give and take. Reciprocity. I can't ever say this word. But getting the same amount of energy you put out, and getting it back. So I'm going to share this story. I had a lady I was talking to recently who actually seemed different. And I developed expectations a little too early. Also due to some attachment trauma I've had. Like I said, attachment to expectations. I expected good things from it. I'm like, well, this person seems to be a little more in depth, a little more kind of like me. But I had noticed a pattern. And this is actually where it began to form healthy expectations. I wanted her to start some conversations without me having to lead the conversation. I realized I was basically always the one starting it and holding the conversations. Sure, she replied to my texts, but that's just replying to my texts, you know. I always had to text her first. Well, I actually just asked her one day just what she did for work, and she never replied to the question. So I left it. I was like, okay, well, let's see if she fits the pattern, or continues the pattern. I didn't reply for 2 days. So I was going to message her and say, hey, you know, this is clear and this is good expectations, is communication. I can be like, hey, you know, I kind of feel like I've been pulling the weight in the conversations. You don't have to text me every day, but I would like you to text first sometime, something along them lines. Well, I found out she blocked me. She abandoned me. She ghosted me. Another trauma wound I have. So she didn't meet my expectations, and I felt abandoned, which actually tends to coincide. Like I said, turns out expectations kind of sprinkles a lot of trauma. At least for me it does. It's one of the biggest things for me is abandonment. Anytime anyone promises something to me and they never follow through, I get angry. I mean, whether it be a human or whether it be God. If someone says they're going to do something, they don't follow through, I get upset. And that's trauma-based. So I've been working on developing healthier expectations. Now, I can still expect something of people. I did realize the wanting to be messaged, that's just a human thing. I had a time where, I think I've said this story before, back in high school I had like 7 to 10 people's numbers. You know, that doesn't seem like a lot, but for me it was. And there was one night, there was a carnival in town. Well, I'm a high school kid, and I don't have money. So I wanted to go with friends, just to kind of hang out and socialize. So I went through my phone and texted everyone. Either they were too busy for me, or they were all already at the carnival. I felt extremely abandoned. It hurt. So I said, alright, F everyone, I'm done. I don't expect anyone. Now that formed an unhealthy expectation. I expect people to abandon me, and I don't expect them to message me first. I always felt like I've had to hold the conversation. So it's developing healthy expectations based off of that. I'm not exactly an expert, as like I said, this is something I'm learning. But then also there's a negative side of expectations placed upon you. For instance, those who know me or have watched my channel know I'm disabled. So I've had negative expectations of never being good enough. I try to do a job, I try to do anything, and I always get the, oh, do you need help? Do you need help? You're fragile. You can't do it. And I'm just like, no, and I would get pissed. I got to the point where I still am, I can lift 60, 70, 80 pounds by myself. That may not seem like a lot, but I'm a string bean, so it's quite a bit. So people look at me and they expect, well, the worst. They expect me not to be able to do much. And that actually damaged my confidence, my self-worth. So, some expectations, you just tell them to fuck off. Like those, people expect things from me, and if I'm not that person, then it is what it is. Like my family I was always quiet, and they expected me to be quiet. In fact, I used to be told to. So once I started voicing my opinion, everyone freaked the hell out. I started telling them what's what in a healthy way. I started saying what I actually wanted to. And it freaked them out because my current version of me doesn't meet their old expectations. So now I'm basically an alien to my own family. They have no idea who the fuck I am. That's not something I can control. And it's not my fault. I don't have to meet their expectations. The only expectations I have to meet are mine. However, like I said, you have to determine whether it's healthy or not. For instance, always being perfect. I have a little bit of perfectionism, and I always expect myself to be perfect. Those are unhealthy expectations, because I can't ever meet that standard. So then, the way to develop healthy expectations, I already lost the piece of paper, but it said something along the line of, notice the pattern. Shit, what was the middle part? Communicate, I think, and then set up boundaries, or action. So again, to say I had a friend. I had an old friend who was quite actually a bully to me. And, he never met my expectations. Anytime I tried to hang out or invite, or I would force myself, basically, to get him to invite me, he never followed through. So I started noticing the pattern. I go, okay, so instead of begging and pleading, and I'm gonna set up a boundary. It basically got to the point we never hung out. We were just work friends, because we still work together. But I cut him out of my social life, completely. And it's not because, oh, he didn't meet my expectations. No, I mean, yes and no. It's because as a friend, you expect to hang out. I mean, it doesn't have to be unrealistic, like text me every day, hang out every day. No, but 1 out of the 10 times I ask to hang out, I would expect you to find time for me. Hang out. Actually go out and do something. There's much more to that pattern, but again, it's finding realistic as opposed to unrealistic. No, I don't need to be texted every day, although I would like to. That's just a personal preference. Could be a little needy, whatever. It's nice. It's nice to be wanted. But it can be unrealistic. People are busy. People have lives. People can't be at my beck and call 24/7. But if I send you a text message and like a week or 2 later I still haven't heard back, well, I mean, I kind of do expect you to get back at some point. Like, here's a good story. And this was actually a healthy one. My dad moved to another state, so we don't ever talk. We would text from time to time. And he actually set up an expectation. He asked me to video chat on Skype. I said, okay, that seems fair. So I expected him to set up a profile and get it ready and talk with me. Well, a week later, after ghosting me, basically he just stopped chatting. I said, okay, here's my username, let's go. A week later, he hasn't texted me once. So finally, he sends me a text, oh man, look at this cool motorcycle we should buy. And I was like, well, yeah, that's cool. So, did you ever install Skype? And I just got excuse after excuse after excuse. He didn't even meet his own expectations. He couldn't follow through. So I set up a boundary. I pulled him up. I said, all right, man, I've been waiting and expecting you to talk. But it doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. Sorry, dude. So let's take a step back, take a break. You can leave me alone for a little while. That's a healthy boundary. In a sense. I mean, I could sit here, and overthink in my brain if I handled it correctly. That's not the point. It was setting a healthy boundary. For instance, my family I just got done talking to. Like I said, I open up to them. It'd be nice to expect them to accept me, but that's not what happened. I expect them to respect me, at least. They don't have to accept me, they don't even have to like me, but I am communicating to them, and it would be nice to get respect. Well, they didn't. So you have to set up a boundary. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily cut them out, but it does mean setting up a boundary so that when they don't meet your expectations, you can step back and not get hurt. What was I saying? Setting a healthy expectation is derived from setting a clear boundary on top of it. So I have a healthy expectation, and when it's not met, this is the boundary. This is where it ends. I make it sound so cut and dry, but it's really hard to learn. Again, allowing people, because everyone deserves respect. That's expected. We're humans. We're supposed to respect one another. But if that expectation is not being met, like say an abusive or what is the other one? Codependent relationship, there are certain expectations. But people don't follow through, and then they don't set boundaries. So it just keeps happening and happening. And for instance, how I keep getting ghosted, how I keep getting abandoned. I expect people to play a certain role, and I don't know. Is that really all the notes I wrote? I had to record this a second time. And I actually feel bad for putting up healthy expectations. Because like I said, well, I got to a point, I don't feel like I should expect anything from anyone. But that's, again, not necessarily true. If, say, for instance, you go into a job, they expect you to do certain things. Now, is it healthy or is it unhealthy? I've had some jobs abuse me where they take more of my time. And because I wouldn't set a boundary, here's a good example. One of my primary jobs knew I didn't have a social life. So they had expected me constantly to stay whenever they asked me to, anytime. And I would get upset and frustrated because I was constantly there. I was pulling 50, 60 hours. And everyone's like, well, that's a good thing. No, it's not. Because I wasn't being fair to myself. I wasn't holding my own expectations of getting rest and setting the boundary. Well, I did. And it actually pissed off my manager. One day, I finally said, look, man, I keep getting sick. I'm working too much. I need to take a break. No more overtime. Well, guess what? My manager had to start coming in to cover all these people who kept calling out. I set up a boundary and it pissed him off. So that was an unhealthy expectation. I'm still learning, like I said, not to get angry when my expectations don't get met. Maybe, again, it's because I'm setting unrealistic ones, or I just... abandonment trauma, having to deal with that. Man, it is roasty. It's only 70 degrees outside, but like sitting in a car, it's like sitting in an oven. So in essence, it can actually ruin your life. So let me bring this one up. I like the word "so" apparently. It's actually a really confusing point. Whenever you manifest, you're supposed to clearly imagine it in your brain. In fact, that's one of the tactics people talk about, is as acute visualization as you can. Imagine it down to a detail. But, and then here's the other thing, is I would attach to the expectation. I would cling on for dear life and be like, okay, this is my manifestation, this is how I expect it to go. But the rigidity of those expectations actually closed me off to the manifestation. So oftentimes, a lot of the times, as I had spoke about the X factor in manifesting, it doesn't always happen like you expect. And because I have such a rigid and narrow vision on my expectations of how it should look, I missed what actually it was sometimes. Like, say I ask for help, and maybe someone decided to come and be nice to me one day and just was trying to be kind, but I was in such a bad mood, or I was looking over here, that opportunity bypassed me. Because I wasn't expecting that, I was expecting this. So, I don't know, it's like having healthy expectations, but also being able to suspend them and not hold on to them too tight. because then they can actually become a block. What else do I gotta say about expectations? Just gotta see where it's coming from. Is it controlling? Is it manipulative? Also, one of the things my stepmom would do was that mind game. She just expected shit. She expected us to read her mind. Here's another good one. I set up a boundary. It was, during COVID, I had a really narcissistic female roommate. And me, her boyfriend, and her were all sitting outside. Me and the boyfriend were just... Again, I don't condone it now. I don't smoke anymore. But at the time, we were smoking weed. And she was playing a video game on her computer. Well, the router was in my bedroom. Or what was designated as my bedroom. Well, I was sitting there, we're just chilling, and she just starts having issues and goes, "The internet's messing up." I'm just like, okay. The internet's messing up. It's like, that's cool. She expected me to get up and go fix the problem because she was having issues. And I set up a boundary and I'm just like, no. Even the boyfriend's like, dude, what the hell? She was asking you to help. I go, I didn't hear please or any form of asking at all. She expected me to get up off my ass and fix her problem. No. She threw a fit, ran into the room, fixed the router, knocked a bunch of my shit over. That's a boundary. That's healthy. It's unrealistic for other people or expect other people to fix your issues. And again, that's something I'm dealing with. Even if they say they're going to help, it doesn't mean they're going to. Whether they're trying to be manipulative or they're just people and they forget. Or things happen. So what is a healthy expectation in this aspect? On myself. Being confident in myself. Even if they don't follow through, I'm still okay. Because again, I've relied on people for too long. Not that you shouldn't accept help or expect help. But don't let your expectations of other people be your ground or your stability. I'm saying this from experience. Like I said, I've expected people to help. I've expected people to save me. And here I am, still struggling. And of course, I'm angry. It's like, what the hell? I had expectations, and they're just not here. And this is really tough to learn. So setting healthy expectations for yourself. For instance, I expect myself to be working like a crazy man. Again, to get myself out of this. That's not healthy anymore. That's just not who I am. I can't work like a crazy man. It's kind of a give and take. Like I said, it's not really something you just inherently know. Because we even gain expectations from our family members that we don't even know about. They expect things from us, and then we expect similar things from others. Like, one thing I noticed while I was working at that job with the bully friend, I had an expectation that customers knew what they were doing. And we treated them like idiots. I'm gonna be honest. Different point in my life. But I would get irritated at something I seen as simple. And these customers couldn't figure it out. Well, that's what we're here for. Customer service. Sometimes I'm just not trying to be rude, but people just don't know. Doesn't make them stupid, doesn't make them an idiot. They just don't know. They don't know things. They don't think about it. It doesn't occur to them. But I had an expectation of customers that they should walk in the door and know exactly what they want. Or exactly how I can help them. And a lot of the times they walk in, they're like, I am sending a box. And I'm just like, uh-huh. They're like, how does this work? I'm like, okay. And I had realized that at some point. I'm like, oh damn. Why should I expect my customers to know what the hell they're doing? If that was the case, they'd be working here, not me. Duh. And the way you can tell your expectations are from your triggers. Like I said, being abandoned. Those are one of my biggest triggers. Getting ghosted, being abandoned, expecting help and not getting it. I get angry when somebody falls out and doesn't do what they say. In fact, like even recently, I had someone I was trying to talk to, and I seen the pattern. They would only message me every 3-4 days. Sure, life gets busy, but then they would never follow through on anything, and I just ghosted them. I'll say it, I just ghosted them. I got frustrated, I didn't set a boundary, I didn't say anything. I'm just like, you know what? Again, sometimes that can be healthy, sometimes it's not. I beat myself up because I also hate getting ghosted, but at least this message was more coherent. The last one I was looping, unfortunately. I had to re-record this one, like I said. It's kind of weird, you know? It's a balance. Life is a balance, and it's kind of a bitch. I'm not gonna lie. So you can be open and still expect. At least have expectations that are healthy for you. That's it. Don't expect anything on anyone else. And if you do, clearly communicate it. Clearly communicate expectations. Sometimes saying it out loud, you realize, oh, maybe that is a little silly. Wanting someone to text me first, that's not necessarily unhealthy. That's just, that'd be nice, you know? Because it doesn't have to be every day, but I expect someone, friends or partners, to reach out to me from time to time. I don't always have to expect carrying the weight of it, the world, essentially. Do I have anything else to talk about? I feel like there was something I'm missing, but I'm forgetting it. Just don't let expectations run your life, whether they be somebody else's or yours being projected on others. Because one of the biggest things I find out is people are so fucking random that it's really hard to expect anything from anyone. That's when you see the pattern, and that's when you learn to what to actually expect from these people. Is noticing the pattern. Because I would attach meaning early on and place all these expectations, which sometimes drove people away. I mean, it's the truth. You drop a heavy load on someone. I realized what I was saying when I said it. Anyways. They can be rather suffocating. So, just kinda take time to think about it. Really look at your expectations. Are they trauma-derived? Like, we say, again, the manipulative stepmother expected everyone to bend over backwards. To do everything. She expected us to drop whatever the fuck we were doing and go do whatever she asked instantly. And I'd look at her, and sometimes I'd set up a boundary and it pissed her off, and I'd say, sure, when I'm done with this. No, I am currently doing something. That's not important. To you, maybe, but it's important to me. That's setting a healthy boundary. And if they can't take that when you communicate it, set up a boundary. I guess that's really it. I'm trying to remember what I said in the first video. This one again was a lot more linear and coherent. I honestly just don't want expectations. I don't like expecting things from people, because then everything becomes a surprise. Just like help. Sometimes I expect help and I don't get it, whatever. But when you do get help, it's like, oh, it's an unexpected gift. It's cool. I actually like the unexpected a lot more, because it feels like a blessing. It feels like a gift. I don't know. I don't know. It's a grave, wondrous mystery of life. People are so fucking random. But don't let those expectations form too rigid either. As I just said, people can surprise you. Sometimes we grow rigid expectations from people because we see the pattern. And then we never communicate it. Communication is big key. But I'm gonna hang up this video and move because somebody's parked in a really weird spot. Oh, nope, they're moving. Anyways, I am actually starting to roast. It's only 75 degrees outside, like, I don't get it. Can I help you, friend? Are you lost? Are you lost on the path of life? I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Enjoying this beautiful day. Yeah, I feel like I've said everything I had to say, so. Although I am expected at work in the next 2 hours, so. I'm gonna dip on out, go take a shower, and get at it, because I'm expected at work. Fuck your expectations! Nah, I need the money. Yeah. Have a great day.